Good evening, Ladue Schools community. If you all could please take your seats. Our closed session meeting is running a little over, so thank you for your patience. Our Board of Education should be with us shortly, and then the meeting will begin. You can still talk and chat. And for those joining via live stream, the meeting will begin shortly.
You brought party favors. That's so great.
That's her.
Okay, thank you very much for your patience. Sorry we were a little late getting in here. Okay. All right, we are. Will you please? We're going to call the meeting to order at 6:11 p.m. Will you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
My favorite.
That was my favorite pledge ever. Thank you.
You guys forgot the second half.
Okay. I know there's a lot of joy in the room tonight, but before we move on in the agenda, I just do want to take a moment to acknowledge that the Ladue community lost a student last week who died by suicide, and we are going to take a moment of silence for Ryan Snyder and his family. And if you ever need any support, please know that the Ladue School District is here for you. So we'll just take a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Okay, now we have a lot of exciting, joyful things to get to. So we'll start with our student and staff recognition.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education, Dr. Whitkey, and good evening once again, Ladue Schools community. I am thrilled to recognize Akshay Purim, a 9th grader at our high school, for his outstanding achievement at the Missouri Council of Teachers of Mathematics Fall Conference held in Columbia, Missouri. This took place this past Friday, December the 5th. Akshay was invited to this leadership conference to co-present on a title called Oh, the Games Students Play, grades 6 through 12, alongside other educators. The session introduced creative ways to make math engaging through interactive games that help students explore patterns and expressions. Akshay played a key role in demonstrating these activities and sharing ideas on how they can be adapted for classrooms across grades 5 through 12. I'm sure that makes teachers happy. His participation showcased leadership, collaboration, and passion for learning, qualities that make us all Ladue proud. Please join me in congratulating Akshay as he comes forward for representing Ladue at this statewide event. And Akshay's parents and his brother is also here. We'd like to invite them to come to share in this celebration. Can you stand on the other side of Dad? Yeah, there you go. There you go. Community, let's give him another round of applause. Congratulations and thank you for your leadership. At Ladue Schools, we also celebrate student leaders who see a problem and take steps to make a difference. And Praneel Balakrishnan, a 7th grader at Ladue Middle School, was concerned about the excessive numbers of speeding cars in his Frontenac neighborhood. I told him I was going to call him to help in my neighborhood too, and throughout the St. Louis region. Praneel turned his concern into action, demonstrating leadership and civic responsibility. Determined to protect his community, Praneel worked with his father to contact the city of Frontenac. He drafted emails to Mayor Doug Kiltner and the alderperson, and soon received an invitation to speak at the Public Works Commission meeting. There, he shared his concerns and proposed solutions. The city responded quickly, installing 2 temporary radar speed signs and 2 permanent speed limit boards in his neighborhood. Pernille hopes his project will make his neighborhood safer for everyone. He encourages other students to speak up when they notice a problem. Pernille's initiative is a powerful reminder that meaningful change can start with just one individual. Individuals' courage and determination even when they're in middle school. Let's bring them up. Pernille. You all can do better than that. He had to speak at a council meeting. And since his dad played a key role in helping him with this, we like to invite dad, mom, grandma, invite the whole family to come up to celebrate with him. You're welcome. She doesn't have to stand up. You could step down, please. You can come over here. Congratulations and thank you. Thank you for making a difference. Next, I'd like to invite Dr. Layla Crabtree to come forward to help us recognize our teacher honoree this evening.
Ladue has a rich tradition of honoring excellence in education. I am thrilled that we continue this tradition monthly here during our Board of Education meetings. There's no harder job than that of a teacher. Those in education show up daily, selflessly giving their all in service to their students. Therefore, it is no small feat when a teacher's actions go so above and beyond to garner the respect of their peers. Tonight, we are pleased to recognize Amy Rich, first grade teacher at Reed Elementary School. You can see from the size of this very enormous crowd with current and former students and families, current and retired teachers from schools across the district, the tremendous impact that Mrs. Rich has on our district. The video will highlight why Mrs. Rich was selected for this deserving award, and then immediately following the video, we will hear from Reed's principal, Dr. Chris Schreiner, who will share more about Mrs. Rich and her contributions to our school community.
Mrs. Rich is a first grade teacher here. She's also taught third grade. I was fortunate to hire her, but I also work with her pretty closely on a lot of committees because she does a lot.
Amy is the kind of person who makes a genuine connection with absolutely everyone. Students, parents, staff members, and even strangers. It's basically impossible to go anywhere with her in the community without someone yelling Amy across the parking lot.
And I watch her in the morning greet kids and actually greet staff because of the way I come in the morning, and she has something personal to say to everybody, and I'm not really painting with a broad brush. I mean everybody, and it's a pretty spectacular skill.
And she knows probably thousands upon thousands of people, and every one of those people probably the same, they can describe her the same way. Oh my gosh, it makes me feel so special.
She is the poster teacher for putting social emotional needs first and somehow incorporating everything she does academically. It's neat. It's like one neat package when you walk into our classroom. You're getting math and reading and social studies and science, and weaved in all that are the social emotional needs of the kids are clearly being addressed.
Oh my gosh, her students, there's nothing she won't do for students. But I could say that for every human. There's nothing she won't do for students, her staff members, her students' parents. I mean, she just goes out of her way. Her kids truly love her.
that a few years back, she had a student in her class that absolutely loved the St. Louis Blues. She learned the different Blues players' names, positions, and even acted like a sports announcer. This student latched onto this connection and loved Miss Rich and learning so much that he still comes back to visit Miss Rich daily.
She's got a tolerance level so that a kid doesn't feel like they're being named all day because they're rolling around on the floor. She embraces who they are and teaches to where they are. I think she puts a lot of thought into that, like how can I reach this kid?
She is the only teacher in history who has students willingly handing over all of their Reese's peanut butter cups after Halloween. She shares this stash of Reese's with her Reed family for anyone who needs a little boost.
Amy means to the staff. That's a tough question because Amy is so much to so many people. Regardless how you know her, you feel special in her world.
Amy is empathetic, thoughtful, selfless, and always by your side. She shows up with compassion, humor, and candy. She makes the people around her feel seen and loved.
Oh my gosh, Amy means everything to the staff. She has an uncanny way of making everybody feel special, and she remembers everything. Like if you walked in her room and said you like some kind of candy, next time you're in this building, that candy would be waiting for you in her room. She's just a standout. She's a standout teacher. She's a standout with parents, with staff. She just makes space for everybody to feel like they belong.
She deserves this honor because she goes above and beyond for her students, and she's always looking for fun, innovative lessons to include in her classroom.
If I had to define what a teacher should look like, what I would want my child to have or my grandchild have, I would be defining Amy.
Those are all the reasons. Great relationships, strong teacher in the classroom, and a leader. She has it all.
Congratulations, Amy. I am so unbelievably honored to be speaking on your behalf. You are dear to my heart, and I know dear to the children you teach and dear to this building, period.
Amy, congratulations on this honor. You're well-deserved. I know you don't like being honored. I know you don't like the attention, but you deserve it. I'm just very appreciative that I get to work with you. I know we joke a lot, but in all seriousness, you are an excellent educator, an awesome person, and just very honored to be working with you.
Congratulations, Amy, on this award. You deserve it and so much more. In a true Miss Rich fashion, peace out. We love ya. Go Pack Go.
Something I didn't share is Amy's a jokester, so what I really wanted to say is why did I recommend her? And I would say, I got nothing. Nothing. I don't know why I nominated her. In all seriously, she is a jokester. I mean, when I turned 50, I know that's hard to believe. I came in here to a room of all black balloons, but she does that for everybody. She always has a joke. She keeps life fun.
Check, check. So this is my payback time, right? All right, now we have the audience here. In all seriousness, Dr. Whipke, Board of Education, district administrators, and all those attending tonight, I'm Chris Schreiner, the principal of Reed, and I couldn't be prouder to be presenting this evening's Excellence in Education Award. Everyone that knows me knows how much I love Reed. It's a great place to be, easy place to love, and we pride ourselves on being a team. But today we get to honor the individual efforts of Mrs. Amy Rich, and I'm very proud to do so. It seems like everyone knows Mrs. Rich. You may know her as a staff member, a colleague, a leader on a committee, your child's teacher or former teacher, your current teacher or former current teacher or former teacher, or a friend. And although each of us might know her in a different capacity, we all know we have one deeply shared experience, and that is Mrs. Rich has a way of making every single one of us feel special, like we are the only one who truly matters. She makes every student feel seen, every colleague valued, and every parent understood. But making you feel good is only part of who Miss Rich is. Miss Rich is an exceptional educator. Instructionally, she is outstanding. Her students show high growth year after year. She pilots new learning strategies, opens her door to be observed by others, serves on committees, and constantly pushes herself to learn and refine her practices. And her impact doesn't stop with her first grade students. Many high school students specifically request to be placed in her class as cadet teachers because they want to keep learning from her as young adults. Although she doesn't love being the center of attention, Mrs. Rich is a leader in every sense of the word. Just this year, she co-leads the Building SEL Committee, serves on the District New Teacher Mentor Committee, serves on the District Breathe for Change Committee, helped establish and helps lead the Best Buddies chapter at Reed, leads a Student Gratitude Panther leadership team, organizes our senior visit, and those are just some of the formal roles she leads. And informally, she is the first person to raise her hand and offer help in any way. So, Ms. Rich, you truly deserve being recognized for the Excellence in Education Award, and congratulations. You may come up here now. Oh, it's just a remote. And I know you have a long speech today.
It's not that long. But my payback now for you. Okay. I am very honored, humbled, and grateful to be receiving this award. Anyone who really knows me know that I love a good win. I got my start when I was 10 at sleepaway camp. I received the Eater Award for eating the most powdered sugar donuts. From there, I went on to win numerous radio calling contests. More recently, I have won several ugly sweater contests, a soup contest, and just last year, I won the staff cookie contest, but still no Powerball. So you would think I would be excited about this Excellence in Education Award, and I am. However, this one feels different. I really don't feel like I can accept this alone. Teaching is a team effort. I have been so incredibly lucky to have worked on the best teams over the years. Team Season, AA, Jenna, Lindsay, Monica, now Chelsea, Ashley, and Kelly. You guys are amazing. We have had so many laughs, some good cries, and everything in between. We work so well together. We are the real deal. I cherish all of my Reed colleagues, and thank you for being the kind of educators and friends who inspire each other to keep learning and keep growing, and who aren't afraid to have fun throughout the day. Reed is a special place where we truly are a family. Chris, thank you for this award. However, I know you're still not convinced I actually teach anything. But I measure my success differently, not by math scores or reading assessments, but by how many kids I've successfully converted into Green Bay Packer fans, and by the steady stream of Halloween Reese's showing up in my room. I think that data speaks for itself. Thank you for letting me be me and putting up with my shenanigans, even if you are the center of many of the jokes. Thank you, Sarah. Thank goodness you are at Reed. You make it fun and you always have our backs. You are not just a building leader. You are genuinely a great person, and I'm grateful to work with you. To the parents, thank you for partnering with me and trusting me with your children. I value the friendships we've built over the years, and I want you to know, once you're with me forever. To my students, you guys are hilarious, brilliant, and endlessly curious. I love hearing about your sports games and what you've had for breakfast, or all about an amazing play date with friends. While I get the EBGBs looking at your wiggly teeth, I do treasure your jokes, your pictures, your hugs, your laughter, and the stories you share with me. Watching you learn and grow is one of the greatest privileges of my life. I'm almost done. Okay. 20 years ago, I was a Spady mom, shout out to Missy, who never thought I'd be back in the classroom as a teacher. It's been an amazing ride, and I have been so lucky to have made friends throughout the district and on the board. Thank you for all you guys do. Thank you, Ladue, for being such a big part of my life and my kids' life. to Lindsay, Carly, and Noah. I love you. And the rest of my family and college friends who are watching. I love you guys so much. Thank you for this honor. I really do share it with all of you. Okay, I'm going to end with a quote from a recent movie from Wicked. Some of you may have seen. And I'm just going to say, because I know you, I have been changed for good.
Stand on the other side. Go on the other side. We'll move this back.
Have them stay. Yeah, but you guys got to get ready for a picture. Watch your step. Watch your step.
Parents, you get your photos?
Go Lions!
Uh-oh, nothing but trouble over there.
Okay, thank you, students. Can I get a picture of the principal with the board president and superintendent? And then Reed family, get ready. We'd like to invite all Reed staff, former. Okay, hold on a second.
Come on up.
Ladue staff.
All of Ladue staff. She wants all of Ladue staff.
Well, truth be told,
Sorry.
On three, can everyone please look this way?
I hope.
All right, thank you. I'd like to get a quick shot with her family. Family members? Bye-bye. the Rich family.
Yeah. And if you have to leave, take a cookie. I don't know where the bucket went. Oh, it's over here. Little party favor.
Let's give Mrs. Rich another hand.
Congratulations again, Miss Rich. Oh.
Close family friends here. Will you announce a friend pick really quick? I said picture the book. Can we do a friend pick?
Okay. They're requesting one more picture, a friend pic.
I guess we can get credit for it.
Yeah, where's Jenny?
You want to get in?
Are you joining? Anyone else? Okay. This way.
Jimmy, one more.
Thank you. And Reed community, you're welcome to stay. Dr. Schreiner is going to be giving his school improvement plan.
Yes, if you are not interested in staying for the whole rest of the board meeting, now is your time to leave. The room just clears right out. We got a lot of good stuff tonight. Go ahead. What? It is never an interruption to honor our teachers.
Loved it.
Hi. The room really did get very quiet.
Huh? Oh, of course we love cookies.
Right, isn't that bribery? Think that's against our contract, Rich.
Complete opposite.
We love cookies.
You're in charge of cookies now.
You win every year.
Okay, one more announcement. If you are not staying for the whole meeting, now is a great time to go do something else with your night. Okay. Okay, I'm going to keep my, congratulations again, Ms. Rich. I'm going to keep my remarks very brief tonight. Just good luck, everyone, going into this last week of school with assessments, finals, sports contests, debate tournaments, chess matches, whatever you have going on in the next week. Wishing you all the best. And please have a safe, happy, and healthy winter break, and we will see you in 2026. Dr. Whipke?
Yeah, thank you. I have a couple of comments, and obviously this time of the year is very, very busy, so I could speak for quite a while on all the happenings in our district, but I am going to keep it brief because of our agenda tonight, and I actually have a section where I speak on our district goals here at the very end of our board meeting. But I did want to highlight legislators in our schools week. I wanted to take a minute to commend our student leaders at Obanum, the 5th grade center, the middle school for their exceptional participation in legislators in our schools week. We had Representative Ray Reed, who was given a first-class tour of FGC, and he enjoyed it so much that when he found out that Representative LaDonna Applebaum was going in for a tour at the middle school, he asked if he could join us. So he had a tour at the FGC and at our middle school. But not to be outdone was Senator Brian Williams, who attended Old Bonham and was able to walk the halls, talk with teachers, talk with staff, talk with our students. And I really appreciated all three of those legislators coming to visit Ladue. I also wanted to thank Amy Hammerman, Keisha Lee, and Pablo Flynn as they attended some of the school visits and tours. So thank you very much for that. Appreciated your time and energy in attending that. I did want to just talk about two quick things, and again, it's hard to just pick only two, but I was able to see our wrestling team last night, and I will tell you, I am so impressed. I mean, wrestling is such a difficult sport, but our women's wrestling has really grown, and the participation from our girls program was outstanding, and that was a ton of fun to see the camaraderie and the effort that was shown on the mat. And then I wanted to highlight Jessica Nutt, who's one of our music teachers at Spady. I was able to see the choir concert at Spady, and those kids sound so good. So if you ever get a chance to see some of the holiday festivities and the choir concerts and the musical performances right now, I know that FGC just had a couple as well, and the band was playing over at the FGC. So if you get a chance to go by and see any of the musical performances, I highly recommend it. Thank you.
Are there any board committee or school liaison reports? Nope. Okay, guess that kind of slows down a little bit at the end of the year. All right. Is there any public comment? No. Okay. All right. Oh, one more thing I did want to mention. I should have said in my board president remarks that about the Ladue School Board candidate filing. So the 2026 Ladue School Board of Education candidate filing notice, or the candidate filing has opened. It opened yesterday, Tuesday, December 9th at 8 a.m. and will continue through Tuesday, December 30th, 2025 at 5 p.m. There will be 3 open director positions, each elected to a 3-year term, April 2026 through April 2029, as the terms of incumbents Keisha Lee, Peter Garapi, and Pablo Flynn expire in April 2026. Candidates must file in person at the St. Louis County Board of Elections Commission located at 725 Northwest Plaza, St. Anne, Missouri 63074. No filing will occur at the Ladue Schools District Office. Don't come, we won't be there. The Board of Elections office is open during the filing period from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., except on the last day of filing when the office is open until 5 p.m. The St. Louis County Board of Elections office will be closed on December 25th, as well as Saturdays and Sundays, and may close due to inclement weather. The ballot placement for all candidates who file on the first day of candidate filing will be determined by random drawing. Candidates filing after December 9th will be placed on the ballot in the order in which they are filed. Candidates filing on the last day should arrive by 4 p.m. to make sure the filing process is completed by the 5 p.m. deadline. Candidates must be citizens of the United States, residents of the state of Missouri, and the school district of the city of Ladue for a minimum of 1 year preceding the election and be at least 24 years of age. For more information about the St. Louis County Board of Elections or to ask questions about the filing process, interested individuals can visit www.stlouiscountymovotes.gov or call 314-615-VOTE. Okay. And hopefully everyone has had a chance to review the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Pablo.
Oh.
Did you say it at the same time?
Oh.
Did you say it?
I'll take a second. Oh, no. Sorry. Oh, it was like
sorry.
exactly the same second.
Wow.
This is a read kind of night. Yeah, well, thank you.
Peter with the first, Pablo with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And we will move on to the action item portion of the agenda, 26-27 high school course changes, additions, and revisions. Dr. Crabtree?
Apologies. As Mr. Griffith presented the course changes and additions and deletions, are there any questions? Otherwise, I recommend the course changes be approved as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Keisha.
Second.
Thank you, Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Crabtree. The Corning and Clark update?
Good evening, Board. Thank you for this opportunity to present tonight. We do have our Cordigan Clark team here to present, and really quickly before we move into the presentation, I just wanted to point out that we have this as an item of action or an item for approval. We are willing to continue to provide information. There's certainly no rush to approve if the board is not ready to approve. But what we've asked Cordigan and Clark to do is continue to gather information about determining what is the best site and what is the most cost-efficient location for the new admin center. So I do know that this is the third board meeting that they've been here. We have shifted gears a little bit in terms of moving away from a building addition and a renovation to a new building, which would leave the existing building. And you know, when we left the last board meeting, we wanted to check on some things that we put in the weekend update. Mike Noonan pulled some numbers together. The first one was for us to maintain the admin building but not use it, to mothball it. Would cost approximately $20,000 annually for us to maintain that building until we decided what we wanted to do with that building, if it would be to renovate or use it for instructional space or build something out. The other number that we asked Mike to pull was what would be the demolition costs. You know, our rough estimate is approximately $250,000 for abatement and another $250,000 for demolition, and that's due in large part to soil stabilization and just kind of knowing that we used that retaining wall on that hillside when we did the middle school addition. So those were a couple of the numbers that we wanted to pull. We also asked Cordigan and Clark to put together some analysis about moving the admin center to the existing tennis courts, and we put that information in there as well. So I'm going to go ahead and invite them up here to answer questions and review a couple slides. And you know, our next step in this would be to approve a location so that we can move forward in the design process, which we can do that tonight, or we can continue to gather information.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We're happy to be here with you again tonight. And in the interest of brevity, I'm going to let Aaron speak because we have a relatively brief presentation. We can stay as long as you like and answer as many questions as you want, but we think we've generated some clear ideas that will make sense to you, and I'll let her speak to them.
Hi, good evening. It's good to see you all. So just wanted to touch base. We want to kind of leave it in your hands to ask any additional questions that you have since the last time we were here. But first go through and kind of refresh everyone. Next slide, please. Oh, I do. Thank you. So we're going to go through the A, B, C, D. So we're all familiar with option A, existing building remains until ready. We also have the option to add on to it. And there's also the option to remove it completely at this time and add a larger new construction on that same area. Option B, next to the field hockey field, just to the west. Plan north is to the right. Option C, we looked at utilizing the area that the facility building currently is on, moving facilities out of the middle school site and taking over that area of the site. And option D, we did look at, and we looked at more in depth per the request of the last time, and wondering why wouldn't it be as advantageous to build there as option B, seen as they're similarly close. And so as you're looking at this a little bit differently, you're looking at a Google Earth, so you can see the topography a little bit better here in this view. You notice the immediate adjacency of the neighbors, that we are capturing a nice tree and landscape buffer farther down on the option B that's already there, plus we would recommend adding to it. But up near the tennis courts, you do have some houses that would generally be in the front or backyard for them. It sits at a higher grade. We're looking at about a 20-foot incline between where we're looking at building on B versus where the tennis courts currently sit on site D. Walking out really wouldn't be conducive without a lot of civil engineering, meaning there's not any hardscape there to work with like we are on the option B site, connecting to that existing road that goes by in front of the current admin building, as well as there's a lot of stormwater management that's there that would have to be relocated, or the building would have to work around it in kinds. And then we're looking at it as a whole, the middle school site as a whole, and that administration building moving towards closer to the tennis courts or on the tennis courts, you do lose that synergy of feeling like you are part of the middle school and the circulation, and then that connection to the students and the community as well as the families. We would be spending more money on connecting to the utilities, the fire hydrant, electrical, gas. All the utilities would make a longer run, as well as we would have to be careful about getting fire trucks and turnaround access back there. We're starting to get to a little bit more of a pinch point over here than we were at site B. So the amount of actual parking stalls that we are able to incorporate would be a lot less than on the site B. Stormwater management we work, and then there would be a disconnect from the current parking lot to this area, given, again, that topography would be challenging. So there wouldn't really be a whole lot of spots right up adjacent to the building. So looking at all of this, knowing that B and D sit relatively adjacent to each other in terms of looking at it on a plan view, we are still recommending that B would be more advantageous in both circulation, cost, and kind of the synergy of the overall campus. This also allows that back field that we showcased as part of a master plan concept to be completely utilized for athletics in the future. If building and parking do go in the adjacency of the tennis courts, it does limit that usability for the future need. So we still are really excited about having a master plan concept, utilizing the backfields, potential redevelopment of the facilities building in the future if the need occurs, really taking a look at the current administration building and giving a little bit more time to understand what would best be its use in the future, whether it's utilizing the building or utilizing the land, if we were going to option B. But all told, with what we've discussed price point wise, option B is the most cost effective at this time. Looking at option A4, if you remember, was a complete tear down of the current administration building and building approximately a 21,000 square foot administration, all new build. Options A, B, and A1, A2, and A3 utilize the existing administration center, and A3 is a new construction, but utilizing that higher square footage of where we started out, which is approximately 26,000 square feet. And again, looking at our design schedule, ideally, if we did start the design process this month, early December, we're looking at it anticipated going out to bid summer of 26. That puts us at November of 27, construction complete. Moving in end of the year of 27, occupying early 28. And we talked about additional options that could happen. And I anticipate as a site is selected and we get into the design that there's going to be even more options that we can talk through and that you guys, we can bring to the table and look at additional cost options as we get there. But we talked about opening up high down lanes, relocating gear, the loop road, artificial turf versus grass for the fields. Again, these are all on the table. And once a direction is selected, we're really dived into deep.
I'd like to add a Nicholsworth
Yeah,
there.
of course.
I'd like to just add a Nicholsworth. If you authorize us to start moving forward, that doesn't mean this dialogue ends. We're going to continue to bring things to the table for you to judge whether we're on the right track or not. This is all part of this process, and we're looking forward to getting started. So we hope you see it the same way we do. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go back to the timeline real quick?
Yes.
So the design could start as early as this month.
Right.
So it's
If we received direction tonight.
The slide is in this page, right? You see that. It says December 26th, and it's supposed to be 25.
You're right. Yeah, good catch. We're not going to wait a year to start on your design, I promise.
Keeping us on our toes. Jennifer, do you have a question?
I did. Yes, I do have a question. And it might not be the right time for this. Can, all of these numbers and everything that looks great for us to kind of process. Can you walk us through, I'm having a hard time from a practical standpoint, kind of envisioning, I'm thinking about Prop L with Old Bonham. I think Spady was a new building, but primarily Old Bonham, and the LMS wasn't as invasive into the green space. The new LMS at the time that we did Prep L. But can you kind of walk me through what our patrons and our community and our teachers and our athletics can expect in terms of usability when you're out there?
During construction?
During construction.
Yeah.
And when you say November of 27 for completion, does that mean fields are their fields turned over earlier?
Yeah, we do have.
For
a
option B,
logistics-
I'm sorry, for option B.
Yes, and we do have a logistics slide. I'm just getting to it so we can speak to this. So if you're looking at option B, that red dashed new building admin construction zone, that red would be what we would be considered the fence area. That would be primarily utilized the intent of the entire construction. Partial field is shown directly below that we feel that could be used and that area could be used during the school day in a safe and secure way. A new access path from the current middle school building to the tennis courts would be determined, and we would be determining this as part of like a phasing plan that we would work through with everyone. Once it's approved, it would become part of the bid documents. So that part would be included as part of a zone and a path that the contractors would provide and keep clear and safe for the students, the staff, and the teachers. There are areas that we would want to look at higher in more detail, and those are highlighted as yellow ovals. Those are really kind of a point of where there's a lot of traffic and circulation that you all are experiencing currently. Adding construction to the site, we understand that these are going to be a little bit of pitch points of congestion that once the design gets underway, we'll heavily look at these areas and how we can achieve a very safe circulation for both automobile and pedestrian traffic.
The loop road there, or the yellow line indicating potentially the loop road, is something that we see as a traffic pattern. So it'll be protected as a place that the kids can walk from the school to get back to the tennis courts and to the field. And you can see it's pretty well separated from where the construction zone will be.
Okay, this may be more of a question for Dr. Macy in conjunction, and I just want to make sure I really fully understand this. Remind me, I wrote down a bunch of dates, but when you say we're going to bid summer of '26, when do you feel like you're actually starting where that construction zone takes effect?
Right now, I think we're looking at contractors on site in September of
September.
26.
Okay. So and Dr. Macy, stick with me because I haven't really thought this through, but if we, the rear field fully available, I know that would be you have it kind of as a next phase. Should we take a look at bidding that out to make that athletically appropriate? And that could happen sooner if it was budget-wise. And I'm asking because it is a lot of time, even though we have some partial field availability for PE, we do have a lot of community programming and a lot of sports and a lot of patrons that really do use that as their main source of property for their, and so unfortunately, my understanding is that the rear field really isn't athletically safe, right? I mean, as we have it in Mr. Noonan, I'm sorry if I'm misspeaking.
So-
Where I'm really going with this is there an opportunity to learn what we could do as a district to look into making that rear field, if it's eventually something we want to do, taking a look at doing that sooner rather than later, so that if we do choose B, we are not also putting such a limitation on activities and sports and community usage, because that one school year is a pretty big amount of time for us to lose that, unfortunately, I think, for a lot of different groups.
Sure. So a couple different things. The first one would be that when we bid out the project, we can include all the alternative options that we want. So at that point in time, we could bid it out and see what the actual numbers look like and see if it's financially conducive at that point in time to do that. In terms of that backfield, last year our facilities department invested a lot of time and energy into it to really be great partners with our boys lacrosse team. So we do work closely with them to make sure that it is safe and that it's playable and that it's ready to go. And what we anticipate is, depending on what happens with that, right? If it's under construction, we're going to lose accessibility. But if there is no construction throughout this period, we anticipate that we're going to maintain flexibility. And what we would do is we would work with Mr. Giannino to make sure that we're great partners with our community. We're not going to tell anyone, the Junior Rams organization, the lacrosse team, we're going to help them find another place, and that might be at the stadium, that might be after hours at our new baseball, softball complex.
So I guess I'm not being clear, and that's on me, I think. The rear field, if we were to bid it, and it were to be something that we maybe have as a board, you as an administrator, in a long-term plan to perhaps make that a competition area, could we bid that now? Is it cost effective to bid that now and say, okay, if that's something that we will actually take advantage of while we're constructing this, to use that and actually make that a competition field now over the summer, so that next school year, because the stadium is really backed up. That FGC is really backed up. I mean, we're talking like daylight hours dwindling, and we're working so hard to grow student engagement that I'm just wondering if that's something you feel like we could bid to look at and to do now.
We will bid it, but I think based off of that timeline and starting design in December, our bid cycle is going to be a little bit later than this summer. So the feasibility of doing it this summer is probably a bit aggressive based off of our current design timeline.
And we can't treat them as different projects?
We could certainly run the numbers and see what that would cost.
I think that we had intended to do a master planning exercise related to the questions you're asking.
Okay.
And so it's my sense of it that we will draw that now. What we've been told by a number of you is it will be a fairly extensive thing, and so it's probably multi-phased, and so you could bite off a piece of it as the initial phase of it and include it as an ad alternate in the bid if you wanted to get a sense of whether you have the opportunity to go a little further. The Loop Road location can be made to serve that area back there well, and so you can get people to and from that field. And I don't think it's not capable of supporting competitive events right now. It's just a little hard to access, and we
Well,
can fix that.
it's not a universal surface for all the events that we're talking
If
about.
you're talking about a turf field, then there is that.
Yeah, and
limitation.
in general, I think that if we're talking about overloading all of these people onto the FGC and onto the stadium, then we're going to have turf-only sports that are getting to have to compromise in it.
We're happy to look hard at that. The only thing I'll mention to you is that because of all the water treatment components that are built into how that works back there, you're likely going to have to put some kind of a field underneath the field to manage the water from that. So there will be cost associated with it, but we can show you all those things, and you can steer us where you want us to go on it.
Jennifer, tell me if I'm misunderstanding. Are you almost asking could we do, if we laid all the groundwork on paper right now, could ground be broken on that rear field this summer?
Correct.
So then that way.
If it's financially feasible, to taking into account, there's always, I was about to do 6, 7.
Yeah, 6, 7.
There's always 6, 7.
6, 7% chance, we're right.
There's always the give and take, and so I think that it's, we talk a lot as a board and about our fiscal responsibility being to the future and also to being the right now, and we're spending, we have worked really hard as a board and Dr. Macy's administration to lead his administrative, I'm so sorry, to budget for this, and it's been a several year process, but those are tax dollars that we've collected now, and I think that we're looking at like a big solid amount of time of our current patrons continuing to be displaced every year for construction that is for future ready. And I'm very sensitive to that because we're talking about, you said Junior Rams, which is a separate organization, a great organization, still separate from the district, but absolutely a sense of belonging for a lot of kids to then go on to our high school and participate in activities that continue to bring them that sense of belonging and that they can give back to their community in that way. And I think this has been a disruptive decade for the current crowd of K through, not K through, I mean, let's call it 6 through 12. It's been disruptive as it is. And I would love to just see the numbers of breaking ground to be able to do that if we're going to be, because when we were doing A, not because we ever decided to do A, but when we were kind of thinking A for a long time, that field was going to stay intact. I believe that most of that, at least at the time, we thought that red zone was going to be a little bit past the driveway and not nearly as involved into
We had thought we would have to nibble at it a little bit to make
yeah,
the
but
parking
not
right.
to the, and look, that's, yeah. That is my maybe hill on this, if I'm going to have
We
one.
can sense your urgency, and what
Okay.
I'm here to tell you is we can get back to you as soon as you want.
But I'm only one board member, and so I don't know if people want you to use your resources on that or not, but I was throwing that out there.
I
as
had
my
made the
thought.
case early on that the master planning exercise was important to do because there's so many moving parts here. So we're glad to help you there, and we can get to your answer, I think.
So I have a question about the current model takes the majority, or if not all, of current parking for the current admin center. So what is the resolve or temporary solution during the construction process for that?
Or you're asking about the parking count?
Correct.
We had said, and I will stand by it, that we're going to do a car-for-car count about what we're going to provide to make sure the number's adequate. And
No, I'm talking about during construction.
I
So
understand.
the red lines takes the current parking lot that's utilized for the admin center,
right, we'll have to offset it.
but I'm asking, I don't know where you would, because I'm looking at also where the blue lines, which are the construction path, are also the lot directly in front of the building. So where is the staff to park to use the current building until it's no longer in use?
So one of the reasons we show those two different red lines is we think the construction zone will
grow and expand at different points, but obviously at all given times, we want to keep that as small as possible. So probably what will happen is in the beginning, and we'll do a more detailed phasing plan once we've started designing the building, but I think there'll be some of that parking that you see kind of on the left side, closer to Building A, that will be available earlier in construction. Then there'll be a point where maybe you might start to lose that. But at the very end, once the building's kind of built, I think you'll actually get parking back towards the end. So that'll be something we look at closely and making sure that we're trying to phase this to make sure you have as much parking as possible during construction.
And so with construction, the construction exit or the construction path also takes or impacts the limited parking on the side. So as to not, I'm just assuming, as to not impact the current middle school site, traffic, buses, all of that, is that the entrance in and out? And so then that...
We haven't worked through the details of how movement will work on the site just yet, but we know that we can. And by the way, the loop road, which could be in this phase, is also intended to be wide enough to support a fire truck. And that means it's going to be wide, which means there's parallel parking available adjacent to that path. So these are all just part of the exercise of solving this as a logistical exercise. And again, we will give you the parking count and show how it's been managed. This drawing does not yet represent that.
Yeah, and even while the trucks are moving in and out of hideout lanes during school, those parking spots will still be available for staff.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Okay, so just to clarify, tonight, Dr. Macy, the request is to approve Court and Clerk to move forward with, on the agenda it says option X. There is no option X. So I want to make sure, is your recommendation, your team's recommendation, that B is the best option for us to move forward? I want to make sure that we're reflecting back at you what you...
I think based off of the numbers that we've run and some of the conclusions that we've drawn, there are certainly some complexities with identifying parking, and we want to make sure that we completely understand that, and that will be part of the modeling once we determine what location we want to move forward with. I think that we certainly want to be sensitive to accessibility because we want to encourage the athletics and we want to provide those opportunities for everyone. So we certainly will begin that planning as well. But we do believe that option B is the best opportunity at this point in time. And based off of this great conversation and all the questions, I think that we can work through some of those logistics because we have to make sure that we don't disrupt the learning for the middle school students. We have to make sure that we have ample opportunity for everybody to come to work. So I do think that approving the location provides us the opportunity to really dig into the detail. I do believe that we can accelerate the exploration of what it looks like to turf a field. Because again, we want to encourage activities after school and provide that accessibility. So, at this point in time, if there aren't any additional questions or any other requests for us to gather any additional information, and the board's ready to vote, we would recommend option B.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve Corrigan Clark to move forward with option B for the administrative center?
So moved.
Thank you, Keisha.
Second.
Thank you, Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you so much for your time, your patience, and answering our questions.
Thank you. We realize it is the holiday season, but if you want to start early in January, considering the master planning issues, we're happy to do that for you.
That sounds great.
That sounds great.
We appreciate it. We enjoy continuing
Thank
to
you.
work with you guys.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays. Okay. Dr. Macy, you're up again with the auditor's report. Is this my copy?
All right, thank you for your time and that topic there. We are moving into the district's annual audit. The state of Missouri does require the school district to complete an audit on an annual basis and submit that by the last day in December. Our partners with Mueller, Obergefell, and Jones are here this evening to discuss the district audit. Hope Hernandez is right here behind me, but before I bring Hope up here, I do want to commend our business office. We have an exceptionally clean audit, but with that, we have exceptionally talented people that have been with the district for 20 plus years in our business office. So I really want to emphasize and highlight Barb Myers because in my capacity in serving this role over the last 13 years. She is truly one of the best, and we are hoping to keep her for a very long time. So, Hope.
Good evening. Is that okay? Can everybody hear me? Okay, perfect. Good evening, board. On behalf of Mueller, Obergefell, and Jones, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to perform the district's annual audit. I will kind of go off what Jeff said, and it's always a pleasure working with the district staff. I want to extend our appreciation to all of the business staff, especially Barb, for their assistance and professionalism throughout the audit process. Their cooperation makes the audit process efficient and successful. So without them, we wouldn't be this far. During the audit, we issue several opinions. The first opinion is on the district's financial statements. I am pleased to report that we issued an unmodified opinion, which means the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. In other words, it was a clean audit with no material errors or issues noted. This is the highest level of assurance that can be provided and the best opinion a district can receive. The second opinion relates to the district's compliance with Missouri laws and regulations, including budgetary and disbursement procedures, accurate disclosure of attendance and transportation records, and other requirements listed in the schedule of selected statistics. We found the district to be in compliance with all of the applicable state requirements. Finally, because the district expensed more than $750,000 in federal awards, a single audit was required. We issued an unmodified opinion on compliance with federal program requirements, again, the highest opinion possible. Additionally, there were no financial statement findings to report. You should have also received a copy of the management letter along with the audit report. This letter contains standard required communications that we are obligated to share with the board each year. There were no additional recommendations or concerns noted. In closing, I would like to congratulate the district on an excellent audit and commend the administration and staff for their continued diligence and attention to detail. We appreciate the opportunity to work with the district and thank the board for the continued trust in Mueller, Obergefell, and Jones. At this time, I would be pleased to answer any questions.
Oh, okay. I thought for sure the CPA would have questions. You understand it all. Thank you so much for your time and effort toward this audit, and Dr. Macy, to you and the business office. We know this takes a lot of time, and we really appreciate hearing this great news. So is there a motion to approve the acceptance of the auditor's report?
So moved.
Thank you, Keisha.
Second.
Thank you, Jennifer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening. And Dr. Macy again.
All right, last but not least, I believe this is our last item of approval. We do have another pay application for the West Campus, our baseball, softball complex, and our tennis courts. I will tell you that it looks incredible out there, so if you have an opportunity, swing by, because you don't have to go too far to see those awesome tennis courts right there from the parking lot. The snow has made us a little bit nervous about the timeline, but we do believe that we're in great shape for that turnover on January 1, which is far ahead of that spring sport deadline. So I think that starts right at the end of February, so we're in great shape. And you know, Mike Noonan probably won't like me sharing this, but we already had to run some people off the tennis courts because they're not.
I was going to ask
officially open
about
yet,
that.
But they're in great shape. So if we do have any little small delays, we'll let the board know going into the break. But we'd like to get everything cleared up, cleaned up, and taken care of, hopefully before the end of winter break.
Are there nets where people play? Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we should take the nets down until it's ready.
I just have a quick question for
Go for
Dr.
it.
Macy. Did we ever get any feedback from the city of Creve Coeur? I think there was some questions on lighting. Originally, it was just questions of lighting the tennis courts and then lighting the entire, both for, I guess, all three fields, baseball, softball, and the two full-size.
So we were waiting to get finished. So we did do the conduit for the tennis courts because that was hardscaped. The feedback that we received about the baseball, softball complex and all the other fields was that there's enough soft earth there that there wouldn't really be a cost savings to go ahead and do the empty conduit there. So we can certainly reestablish those conversations, but we wanted to get finished on the current permits before we started asking too many questions about lights.
Sounds good. I remember, I think it wasn't a Creve Coeur City Council member who asked if there were going to be lights?
It-
At least for tennis.
It was, and I do think that there could be a sentiment for us to move forward with the lights on the tennis court at some point in time, because they were very excited about the tennis courts.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any more questions? Is there a motion to approve the Byrne & Jones pay application in the amount of $964,820?
So moved.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Keisha. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Schreiner. Peter, it's your night.
May I join them at the podium?
Okay, Peter would like to come do the
presentation. How about that?
Don't tell them.
Go
I
ahead,
know,
we can
don't
give the
tempt me.
presentation.
Oh, moral support. Oh, thank you.
And Dr. Crabtree. Anyone else who'd like to come forward?
I'm hoping I pressed the right button. Well, good evening, Board of Education and Dr. Whipke. I'm here with our my assistant principal, Dr. Sides. Give her a big shout out. She is amazing, and I really appreciate working with her. Today, we're going to give our school improvement plan. We're looking forward to sharing that with you. Make sure I got the right button here. There we go. So our school improvement plan is really what's informed our school improvement plan are 4 pieces of information. First and foremost, we're in line with the Ladue School District Strategic Plan. We also are using panorama results and iReady results and results from High Reliability School Survey to kind of drive our school improvement plan. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the High Reliability Schools framework. Robert Marzano is kind of the guru in education. He has developed a framework that looks at all aspects of a very successful school based on research. And last year, we really focused on the left side of the frame. It gives an overview of the High Reliability Schools framework. There are 5 levels. Last year, we were really focusing on level 1, which is safe, supportive, and collaborative culture. So a lot of our efforts went into that. Not that we don't spend time on that level now, but most of our efforts have moved to level 2, which is effective teaching in every classroom. And so if you move to the right of the slide, that's kind of a breakdown in more detail of what level 2 looks like. That's Marzano's instructional framework. And we're going to be referring to that a little bit during our presentation. There are 43 elements, and each one of those elements can be broken down into many different research best teaching practices. And so that is what we're diving into now, is really getting familiar, getting on the same page of those elements and the effective teaching practices that come with them. We have 3 goals. We were charged with narrowing our school improvement plan down to 3 goals and to be laser focused on them. But READ being READ, we can't just do that. We created another little sidebar. We made building committee goals. So we kind of cheated and we've added some more other goals to READ. One thing that I think what I want to make very clear is, though, as we go through these 3 goals and our building goals, is that even though we base them on those 4 pieces of information to start with, since it's mid-year, really we're in the process of we're actually in the process of giving our iReady assessments right now. We will give our High Reliability School Survey to our staff later in the year. So really what we have to base our progress is our panorama data, which we just gave about a month ago. We'll give that again later in the year. And then we also can base it on where we are in our on our action steps. So that's really where we're looking at our progress at this point in time. So goal 1.
Oh, clicker. Okay. Good evening. It's nice to see everybody again. Just wanted to say this is my 2nd year at Ladue and my 2nd year at Reed, and I am just as excited and proud to be a part of this district as I was last year when I started. Dr. Schreiner has been a great mentor and somebody to work with, and the community in Ladue, but more specifically at Reed, has created a huge piece of my heart over the past year and a half. So I'm very thankful to be here and to be at Reed. So our first goal, like Dr. Schreiner had mentioned, is we're really focusing on that level 2 piece of Marzano, and that's the instructional piece and the effective teaching piece. And so what we wanted to do is we give our staff a survey at the beginning and the end of every school year based on whatever level we're at. We gave staff a level 2 survey, and we took a deeper dive into that data and decided what is it that we need to be focusing on with our staff this year to make sure that they are having all of those effective effective teaching and instructional pieces within their classroom. So when we took the survey at the end of last year, we decided that we would like staff to have not only the overarch big picture of what the instructional framework is, but to really look closer at each of those elements and see what they can focus on to receive learning on and to do better. So I don't want to bore you with all of the information that's on this slide that you can see, but what I want to do is highlight one piece of it on the bottom, which is those learning walks. So last year we were lucky enough to start learning walks, and our goal at the time was just to get teachers into each other's classrooms, because that is where master teachers are. That is where we are going to learn. And we know that our staff at Reed has a wealth of knowledge that they are ready to share. So last year, our goal was just to build that trust and to get people into each other's classrooms. This year, we are focusing more on the Marzano elements. When we go into a classroom, we ask that teacher that we're observing, which element would you like us to focus on when we're in your room? And so what we'll do is we'll meet with the teachers first. We'll go over and take a deep dive into that specific element. We'll talk about the look-fors. We'll talk about what are things that this could look like, what would the teacher be doing in the situation, what would the student be doing in the situation, and we'll go in and we'll write all the cause and effect great things that we're seeing. And then we will debrief as a team with that teacher, sharing the different things that we saw within that classroom. Last year, we were able to get 17 different teachers observed. This year, we have 11 set up, and we're hoping to get at least back up to that 17 by the end of the year. Our second goal is really focused around our student panorama data. Last year, the district had a big focus on engagement, the piece of Marzano's instructional framework. And so this year, we know that engaged students translates to higher achievement. So we asked students, based on the goals or the panorama survey from the end of last year, how they felt that they were being engaged. Students came back with a 46%, and we set a goal to reach that up to the 56%. Well, the good news is when we took this survey about a month ago or so, we were already at 59%. So at this point, our goal is to really maintain and increase that percentage for students to the end of the year to make sure that we have met our goal. The main focus for us with this piece is we just want to familiarize our staff and our students with the different pieces of the Marzano framework and those elements within there. And we know that engagement is a big piece of that, and we will continue to work on that with our staff and our students and taking the different surveys to make sure that we're meeting those goals and we are where we need to be.
All right. Goal 3. Just a little bit of background before we get into goal 3. On the screen, you'll see our last year's iReady data. And our reading data, you'll see 77% of our students were achieving on grade level, whereas the math achievement was at 65. But we actually focus more on growth. And so at our reading growth, we had 79% of our students meet their annual growth goal, but in math, we had 65. So the data pretty much showed that our readings achievement scores and growth scores outshined our math scores. So therefore, we made math our main focus this year. And so to make math our main focus, number one, we brought attention to the staff. We shared this data with the staff. And then obviously, you've probably all heard of Grow Time at this point in time. So we have made math very much a priority during our Grow Time. We have used our math specialist. We have a very, very talented math specialist. So he's working very closely with our grade level teams to analyze the data, to break down where our students are, where their strengths and where their relative weaknesses are, and then create being very strategic with their Grow Time. And coming up with the interventions and what works best for those students. And so that's really what we've been focused on during our Grow Time. The other piece of that is we started a math tutoring group for some second and third graders who are we invitation only, and we really strategically pick those students that may not be receiving our most intense intervention at school. So we pick those to give them an extra dose because they weren't the students who were getting the most attention, but we felt needed more attention. So we invited them to come in before school. Just like I told you a little bit earlier, 3 goals are obviously not enough for us, so we added some other goals. Unlike in addition to the things that inform our other goals, we had one other piece of information that informs the building, or two other pieces of information that informs the building goals. One of those is we are a National School of Character, and with that, we had a audit that went through that process. And so we received feedback, and that's really the reason we go for that. It's not to get the recognition, it's really get feedback on how we can be a better school. And so through that process, we were given feedback through the National School of Character audit. So that came into play here. And then also we have amazing staff. So we gathered their input too. So most of these goals, if not all of them, came through a process of looking at the data I shared before, the School of Character audit, and getting staff input. So keep that all in mind. So I'm just going to give you a few highlights. So the blue is really the goal, and the green is part of our, I'm going to highlight a few action steps. There's a lot more action steps, so the green are just some highlights. So one of the things that we felt the need to do through our audit is increase our parent engagement. It kind of, we have great parents at Reed. Actually, you saw a ton of parents here. We have nothing against our parents, but we as school staff feel like we need to do a better job at utilizing our staff. After the pandemic, it seemed to wait a minute, we need to add some parents to be on a few more committees. We haven't done that. They kind of went by the wayside after the pandemic. So it's little things like that. So we have invited parents to participate more and more of our committees. And then Dr. Sides and I have started giving little parent perspective, little overviews of certain topics at our RSA meetings. And so just to educate them on school topics, we went over our demographic data. We went over iReady and what that means and what those scores mean. So those are some of the topics. Soon we're going to go over our problem-solving process and what resources we have at school. So each month we kind of present on a different topic. We've given our staff, we're trying to give them more input, get more input from the staff. So we've administered more surveys with our staff. We're trying to celebrate our staff more. We give shout outs. Dr. Sides is amazing with organizing different opportunities to give shout outs. We give shout outs at staff meetings. We have an online tool to give shout outs. We give shout outs at learning walks. We try to give as many praise our staff because they definitely deserve it. Our character committee is working on student goal setting, and we are celebrating our staff, our students as well. We celebrate our students every day, showing our core values. Some other building goals we have, our PLC, our focus was really critical concepts, which is basically narrowing down in our large, huge, humongous curriculum and manageable and most important pieces. But right now we've really we've kind of pivoted and made it going to utilizing our grow time the most effective, because we have different grade levels at different places in that, and some are really creative on using that time. So we've really are working on that, but we will get to critical concepts at some point in time. Our social emotional learning committee is focusing on creating a universal quick link guide. It's actually linked there. It actually has our mandated things that every teacher needs to have in place, procedures, routines, certain lessons we need to be teaching our kids on how to be their best learners at school. And then now we're taking data on our common areas and what areas that we need to improve upon. The district has a Breathe for Change group, and our staff, which one of those was Amy Rich and Jenna Strayhorn, those are our leaders. They have presented at our staff and tried to embed those strategies at different opportunities. Another thing that we've been working on over the years is our cultural proficient training. That's really picked up some speed this year. We have been working closely with our diversity committee, but Jen Rizami is come in. This has happened over several years, but now we're moving it to the staff. And they've presented at staff meetings. Our next PD day will be focused on that as well. And then our BIST Restorative Practice Committee, which is our basically our school-wide behavior management committee. we are working on trying to give our students more leadership opportunities and teach them on how to have tough, difficult conversations. We're a big fan and big believers in restorative practices. And so now we're training our students to have restorative conversations among themselves. Our counselor has trained peer mediators. We're in the process of really trying to figure out how to branch that out to all kids. And we are coming up with a system, a more kind of a, lack of better words, a curriculum for our new staff on how to train them when we're onboarding new staff in those practices. So those are that's our strategic plan, or our school improvement plan. That's our committee goals. Are there any questions?
No, I mean, I do just want to commend, because I think one of the really wonderful things is with the Panther Leaders component, and how I believe that was a deliberate choice to shift into that outside of student government or like actually elected positions within. And I think it is a wonderfully nurturing and encouraging program. And are there any additional, I guess, are there any plans that align with the goals that you've set for the building that take advantage of the momentum that has been put in place?
Getting students more involved, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, many years ago, when we started the road down to trying to be a school of character, the goal was to try to get students more involved. We went and make things more equitable. So one of the first dominoes to fall was to get rid of student council and create Panther Leaders. At that time, we called them STAR teams, and now they've changed into more Panther Leaders. I don't know if you've ever worked with or heard about Stephen Covey's work with being lighthouse schools and Leader in Me schools. So, but we kind of taken some of their practices and we figured we could do a lot of these things on our own. So over the years, we have tried to make things more equitable and getting students more involved. And each year, we tend to add on to that. And so I guess the restorative practices conversation, getting kids more and having leadership roles, is really that next step. So that's where that momentum's taking us. It's really giving students more of an opportunity to have a voice in our really every part of their schooling. Character does a great job. I know we do, and Jen Hadfield's here in the 4th grade team, and Thaler and Grosser and Rigdon. They do a great job working with our kindergartners, even making goals, that they set goals even in kindergarten. And so we're hoping to branch that out to other grade levels as well. So those are just some examples how I think that's what you're asking, is how are we getting more students involved in their own learning? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that it's wonderful that Difference Makers, another one of those student involvement programs, is open to younger students as well. And I'm only asking this because we kind of have all of the right people in the room with Dr. Macy and Mr. Noonan. And with the old gymnasium, and I guess I'm just curious if there have been any additional conversations or kind of revelations with the space now that the new gym has been there for a couple years, in terms of what the school's needs are that align with the building goals.
That's a really good question. You know, Reed's an old building, so there are some things that we would love to have. You know, we would love to have smaller workspaces and, you know, things like that nature. Having said that, there are benefits to having another gym. Unlike Spady and Old Bonham that have flexible workspaces, our smaller gym has kind of turned into a flexible workspace. So that's something that, you know, since we've had some time to live with these extra gym, we've used and been more creative on making it kind of a flexible workspace. It's not exactly like what they have, but for instance, our 4th grade team is here right now. They push into that space from time to time and do activities. So at some point in time, we're going to have to sit down and with some close conversations with Dr. Whipke and who powers that be, and what is the greater need? Is the greater need going to be, you know, using that space in a different way? Are these smaller workspaces and what that could provide be a better asset to our building, or leaving it be and maybe enhancing this different ways? And that's something we're going to have to figure out. But I'm glad we've had the opportunity to live with the gyms in the way, because otherwise we would have just built and renovated that space without utilizing it as it is. We wouldn't have this background knowledge.
No, thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Doctor, thanks for the presentation. I have a question. You alluded to this and there's a bullet about the cultural proficiency training.
Yeah.
And you offered that Dr. Rizmi has come and led some of that work in the building. And you also alluded to some of the academic data earlier, and that when you recognized there was a concern or that things are going well with reading and math, but math was an area to continue to grow. What were some of the driving components around this cultural proficiency training? What are we trying to address, build upon, improve upon? I'm just curious.
Well, I think it's all encompassing. You know, it not only it helps with having equitable practices in our school, just in general, but it goes into, you know, how do we meet all of our kids from an academic standpoint? How do we include all of our families as far as making them feel comfortable and seen and heard and be a part of our school community? Recently, I've been on some district subcommittees with Dr. Rizmi on fundraising practices, on how to make those things, how to make fundraising a little bit more equitable. So it really goes into all aspects of that. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with the culture proficiency continuum, but on the one side, it's, you know, you're working to diminish a certain group in a certain way and depending on the topic. To the other side is, and I know you're pretty familiar with this, by the way. And then on the other side, it's, you know, you're an advocate, and you're trying to lift people up, and you're, lack of better words, an advocate for all that certain group. So it really is all encompassing. It allows us to, we're starting to dive into some really tough conversations about, you know, healthy and unhealthy practices and how can we improve some practices at Reed. Maybe some long-standing things that we've been doing that we may have a lot of benefits. Maybe there's some unintended consequences with those. So we really are just getting familiar with the continuum, and now we're kind of just sort of delicately going into how does this apply to our current practices. And that could be academically, could be events we hold. It's just really all-encompassing. And a real big shout out to our RSA. Even though they don't go to our training, we give little cliff notes of what we've been going to, and our RSA has always been very, very, I guess, appreciative and very supportive of that work, and they're always looking for creative ways on how to make really fundraising, but even events more, I guess, accessible. Yeah.
Thank you.
Chris, I'm going to chime in for you real quickly and give you a compliment. Chris is one of the principals. Obviously, he's one of our veteran principals. He does a phenomenal job at Reed, but he continues to want to learn himself. And we recently had Dr. Devitt present to PDC on some inclusionary practices. And who walks up the steps to sit in and listen was Dr. Schreiner. And we've talked about it here as a board, but with new to Ladue and where our data surrounds families that are new to Ladue, and that learning curve that takes place. And Conway's doing some really cool things in those efforts. And Chris was like, hey, maybe I could grab some greatness on that front. So I think that connects to your question.
So some of our welcoming packet may look very familiar to Conway's, actually. So big shout out to Dr. Devitt.
Really quick, I just wanted to highlight the work of Dr. Wallace and his team, because I've seen not only how the after-school programming has grown, but how it seems to continue to change to align with the interest of the students. And so not only that, but also right at school, it's really neat to see how these district resources at the building level and also at the administrative level have worked together for the support of the students and their families. So thank you.
Thank you so much for this presentation. If nothing else, we know that your building is filled with joy. I mean, that is the best Pledge of Allegiance we have heard all year. Really, really great. And obviously your community is gathered around your mission and your teachers and your students and your families. It is really great to see. So are there any other questions for Dr. Schreiner and Dr. Sides? Okay. Thank you so much.
All right,
we really
thank you so
appreciate your
much.
time tonight. Enjoy your winter break. Okay. Dr. Rizmi?
Thank you to Dr. Whipke and the board for your time this evening. We really appreciate being here to share this important information. I'm going to be sharing a little bit about our climate culture survey and then hand over to Ashley Hill, who is going to be talking about SABRs tonight in SEL. So we'll start by diving into Panorama. This slide shows the overarching goals for Panorama. I just wanted to point out that also giving climate culture surveys is a requirement under MSIP 6.
And as a reminder, with Panorama, there is a 5-point Likert scale. Those top 2 categories are what's used to determine favorability, like when you heard Dr. Schreiner talking about that. This is a 3-year overview for all categories. Our categories have stayed the same for the last few years because we're wanting to chart progress over time. And what we'll do is dive into some of these specific areas on the following slides. We're going to start by looking at school climate, which is an area that has continuously grown since we started tracking progress in the fall of 2021. So you can see here for teachers and staff. And then as we move into families, that is also an area that has continued to climb. These are some of the questions that are specifically around climate. So for example, with family, taking a look at increase in perceptions around valuing the diversity of student backgrounds. We can see as we look at things like positive work environment, teachers up 31% over the amount of time since we started focusing on this, and staff 26. Also, feedback and coaching is an area that we wanted to make sure to point out this round because it's an area where we've continued to focus. We see an increase from teachers and staff as well. That includes central office staff. These are some of the important questions here. One of the things that we've actually talked about in the past with the board is really wanting to focus on making the evaluation process something that we learn from. And so that is, teachers have reported up 19% since we started. We need to keep growing in that area, but staff as well. And as far as feedback being useful and happening more frequently. Sense of belonging is also an area for us to focus. You may have noticed that in 3rd through 5th grade, it really looks like it's staying steady, but I do want to point out that when we look at that on a national norming, that our elementary schools are at the 99th percentile nationally. So even staying steady there is something that is a good for us, and we want to continue growing. But at 6th through 12th grade, we see that we have increased 11% since fall of 2021. This is a hard area to move the needle because it means focusing on authentic relationships and connections between teachers and students with each other. And so just wanting to share that, we can go break down it further. If we look at the secondary side, not only has favorability increased, but if you look at our students who had the lowest sense of belonging, if we looked at fall of 2021, we have gone from 21% not feeling a sense of belonging to, if you look at not favorable in fall of 2025, that is down to 12%. So we want to look at this, comprehensively as well. We also want to break down our data by student groups. This is something that the board has asked for in the past and is really important. I'm going to be talking a little bit about a partnership with Dr. Davidovitz and our special school district administrators as we look at students with our IEPs, for example. We want to look at all different students so we can think about where we need to focus our action steps. These are some of the questions that are related to belonging, diversity, inclusion. All of these are around connectivity between students from different backgrounds, looking at friendships, bullying. Some of this goes into no place for hate. So this is all, these are all needles that we want to keep moving in that direction. I'm really grateful to our schools for their efforts around this. And so some of our associated action steps with the areas that we just looked at, we're in our 2nd year of No Place for Hate. All of our schools did earn designation in that last year. And this year we're focusing on allyship and being an upstander. That focus came directly from conversations with students. Lessons were developed over the summer around being an ally and upstander, which were facilitated pre-K through 12th grade, 1st quarter, just to get us jump-started this year. And then also, we heard Dr. Schreiner talk a little bit about this. There's been a big focus on feedback and coaching strategies through Admin Council. And I talked a little bit about partnership with Special School District, but I want to thank Dr. Wallace for including me in his monthly special education leadership meetings, because that has been wonderful for talking about access, inclusion, equity. And Dr. Davidovitz right now is diving into all of the fall panorama data, looking at students with an IEP and how they've responded. And then our use of multiple data points, you're going to hear a little bit from Ashley later in terms of how we make sure that we're not just looking at panorama in isolation, we're looking at a lot of different data points when we think about how to support students. Think about our work with Brian Baraka and Lisa Lacroix. They really help us with Tableau, EduClimber, making sure that we have all of that we can view comprehensively. Moving into an area of focus for growth We want to continue to focus on engagement. We do see that uptick happening at the elementary level, and that slow, steady climb at 6th through 12th grade, that we want to keep going in that direction. Breaking it down again, this is an area where 3rd through 5th grade, we want to think about, how do we continue moving that needle? In the secondary, you can see that, again, not favorable has also decreased. So we want to not just increase favorability, but also be seeing those numbers get smaller on the other end. And then when we have a breakdown, always interesting to look at this, for example, at elementary with gender, male, female, that's, 10% difference. So just thinking through, all of this helps us ask more questions that help us. These are some of the significant engagement questions. The ones at the bottom are separated because we just added those in the past year as we continue to look at different ways that we can target our action steps to really meet the needs of our kids. So some of the things that we've been doing, Dr. Crabtree's really been leading the C&I department and looking at engagement together as a district-wide goal. Again, and point out, Dr. Schreiner talked about Marzano's framework. This is work we're all doing together. We just had a district-wide PD Day on November 4th, where everybody participated in doing a review and then breakout sessions. I got to facilitate a couple of sessions on increasing engagement with when we look at reading different texts in class and watching videos, and how can we make sure our students are taking away what we need from that. The learning walks and effective feedback protocols. Our principals are, with intentionality, working with teachers on their lesson design plans. New to Ladue is great. 2 years that our teachers who are new to Ladue focus as a cohort on learning culturally responsive practices to build engagement in the classroom. And also, just last Wednesday, we did a deep dive into the fall panorama data at our principal meeting together. If you want to dive further into this data, you have the executive summary report here, which will be posted on the website for our entire community as well. There's the community link there, and we will have our next survey in the spring of 2026. I'm going to hand it over to Ashley now to talk about SABRS and SEL.
Hi, good evening. I had to ask which button we needed to push. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about the SEL screener that we give, which does look a lot different than our panorama data, because for the SABRS, we're really talking about individual students. So when we look at the data tonight, it's going to not make as much sense. So we're going to move through what the process is when we use that data to make sure that we're supporting students the best way that we can here at school. So this year, I'm really proud. We have put a lot of systems in place. So starting big, we do have data reviews in all of our elementary buildings this year, which means 3 times a year we come together with our building leadership, our counselors, and our teachers. We look through all of the student data. We make decisions based on grade level, classroom, or individual students, and we pair them up with the interventions that they really need. We also have a problem-solving process in all of our buildings. So that looks at individual students, and again, we are looking at multiple data sources, but with that, we are really seeing improvement on some of these kiddos that have smaller concerns early on. We're putting in good interventions, and we're seeing some growth a lot quicker than waiting till we see bigger problems. Monthly data teams happen at all the buildings, so since we do SABRS only 3 times a year, we have that monthly touch point, so we can talk about what data is driving those decisions to support our kids. Smart forms and EduClimber. So we're really making sure that we are doing forms that can be found, because Google Drive, anybody that uses it, it's hard to access. And so when we put everything in our EduClimber system, then no matter what building that student is in, it follows them. So it's very easy. So that's been a huge undertaking, but we're very proud of that. And then the second year, we are working on our district MTSS leadership team. So we are focused this year primarily on our SEL priority benchmarks, interventions, and just systems. SABRS overview is simply, we focus on 3 areas: academic, emotional, and social. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes per student for the student themselves to take, which starts in 2nd grade. And we have 2nd grade through 12th graders taking that self-assessment, and teachers are doing it K through 8. We do give it 3 times a year, and we use that data, again, in those review meetings to really, really plan for interventions. I always get asked, what are the actual questions? So here are the questions. They are going to look the exact same for the teacher versus the student. But what we have found, and you'll see this in our findings, is that social and academic are our areas that are really popping up as concerns. Are students ready to learn, which is that academic area? And then what, because as we know, behavior is a communication. So that social piece, when we see behavior, what are they trying to communicate to us? And it's the exact same questions. It's just saying, how do I feel in these areas? Global overview. This is not my favorite way to look at SABRES. My favorite way to look at SABRES is individually as students. So with Panorama, we don't have that individual student name attached to their score. For SABRES, we do. So for this, if you look, we're looking at that 80% and below would be the area that we're really gonna hone in on. We'll see at our key takeaways. This is our 6th through 8th. These are all teacher reports. Moving into the student reports, the same thing. We're looking at 80% or below as the main areas of concern. So trends and findings. I went back to our first year, which was 2021, is when we started doing SABRES across the district. And K through 2 consistently, in the last 4 years, consistently shows students more at risk in the areas of academics and social. So our kids are coming to us not ready to learn in the way that we are currently teaching them. They are communicating that, hey, we're struggling, but they're communicating that by behavioral. That's what we see a lot of in that very early elementary. Second grade, so our current second graders, when they were kindergarten, the trend is showing the same thing. We're not growing as much as we would like them to do. They're still struggling. We've made some changes. We've tried different things, but we're still missing something. So we still need to find the right strategies for these kiddos. And then once we get to the upper grade levels, 8th grade historically, academics. And what is that? I don't like school. I don't like the content. I'm not going home and thinking about what I want to do at school. So how are we getting them engaged for school? They're not engaged in their learning, which again, that's where we start seeing those social emotional concerns pop out. What's something that we need to consider is our middle and high school. They're not self-reporting a ton of social and emotional concerns. They still self-report academic concerns because it comes back to that engagement and the willingness to want to be here. But as a person who works in the district, I can tell you there are social emotional concerns, but they're not self-reporting that. So the SABRES process, when we do look at that, as I said, we have that meeting with our teams, and we do create those plans. This year, I'm so proud we have it going in all of our elementaries, and everybody follows this process. All of our elementaries, consistency, we are all following this process. I'm getting a ton of really good feedback that we're creating solid plans for these kids. And teachers are also saying, like, hey, I'm filling this out and we're doing something with the data, and the kids also get that direct feedback too. When they say, I'm struggling, now we're responding and saying, we know you're struggling, so what can we do to support you? Jen mentioned that we always use additional data points. So the SABRES is a snapshot, 2 to 3 minutes. We also want to look at other things. So in our dashboard, when we pull all the data, these are some other areas that we look at to make sure that, hey, maybe the SABRES score was okay, but this kid is having office referrals and nurse visits and attendance issues. We don't want to not service that kid because their SABRES looked okay. So we always want to make sure we're looking at additional data points.
Oh, sorry. I just had a quick question. On the previous slide for nurse visits and counselor visits, how does that work in terms of, I guess there's the self-reporting component, but then there's also just like that sense of confidentiality that the student feels comfortable, I guess, but then at the same time, if there is an area of concern, that it is being appropriately recorded so that way you know that this issue, is one that should be investigated a little bit more, maybe at the building level.
Absolutely. So what we'll look at first is just a number. So the sheer number of referrals, the sheer number of times the student has gone to the nurse or gone to the counselor. And then we had one student who the number was very, very significant. So the counselor then did the follow-up, went to talk to the nurse to say, hey, is there something going on? We found out it was medication. So that student is just going to the nurse a lot for the medication.
For the counseling visits, those are being documented as just very global. So are they coming for social emotional, friendship, things like that? Then the counselor would know the follow-up to that, and we wouldn't share out the direct, if there's something very sensitive, we would just share out, hey, this might be an additional area that we need to support. But that's all calculated through EduClimber because they're just putting in direct numbers right now.
And is there an alert or something that the counselor would get to say, hey, I guess the counselor only knows what they know unless there have been a large number of nurse visits or office visits or attendance issues that pops up and says, hey, this student based on these metrics has kind of, crossed into an area of concern.
Absolutely. So that's being addressed through our data team meetings. So in the data team meeting, I have an agenda, and one of those are all the data pieces we look at. So we'll pull those up. So there's no specific alert that's being flagged to them, but we are pulling up those students through the data team as a kind of that big picture look to narrow down the students that we need to look further into.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Would it be fair to say, to Peter's query, that much like we've done over time, I'd say the last 2 decades and last decade and a half, as a district, done a much better job of looking at academic data. This is the kind of the continued pivot to look at social emotional data intentionally as well. So I think that's the variance, is really building systems, to your point, that are looking at that whole other side of the human condition coming to school. So still building those systems, because we've done so much work after decades of not really thinking about it to look at academics. We've really solidified a lot of that work and are doing the same around the social emotional component. I'll offer this because I heard that from one of your slides that the K-2 students at Reed aren't doing very well. So I wanted to ask you, what metric did you mean when you shared that? Certainly we know the students are doing well, but I also appreciate the fact that you recognized in the data there's a K-2 piece. So could you expand on that a little bit so people aren't misled in terms of what that number is or what that means?
Sure. So that is a direct correlation to the SABRS results. So if they are 80% or below. So if you look on this particular slide, this is a student report. So on the social side, the students, we only had 75% that scored in the average range. So that would indicate that we have about, we have more than 20 kids, or 20% of our students who are really struggling, that they're self-reporting social. 83% for academics. Yes, that goes above our 80% mark, but that can be a couple students. So I'm very mindful when we are hovering around the 80% mark that those are kids we want to keep our eye on. And then the same thing, if you go to the teacher report here for kindergarten, you see a 76% for emotional, you see 68% for social, and 82% for academics. So across the board, teachers are self-reporting, hey, our kids are really struggling at risk. So that's specific to that. We also have discipline data that's also saying, hey, we have a rise in those particular grade levels, and that kind of corresponds to what we're getting self-reports.
Sure. So I appreciate that. Just I think what it once again says is there are students who had additional needs we weren't recognizing by virtue of data collection. It was anecdotal at best. We have great teachers and social workers and counselors and administrators and TAs who recognize something's amiss, but this is a more hard, fast tool to collectively recognize along with the other data that you mentioned in the other slide. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and to your point, the systems has been a huge, really, we're catching them early. We're trying to be preventative instead of reactive. So by me having this opportunity to do that this year, really focusing on having the time set up to have these meetings, we're not saying, uh-oh, student A is really struggling. We know student A is struggling because we're already starting to see the counselor visits going up, the nurses visits going up, the attendance rate dropping, things like that. So we're catching them earlier. I'm very much, the last slide here is about MTSS. Very much we know, I'm going backwards now, that we know if we have a system in place to catch these kids, we are going to do so much more for the system of kids. We're going to support them versus just, hey, we need to go and directly support 5 kids. No, with this system, we can support every student in the district. So for Jen and myself, all of our data that we're looking at does fall within this system. As a school psychologist, we're all about whole child. So this MTSS system is looking at more than the academic data, which is amazing. So, thank you.
Can I ask a little bit, I'm sorry, my voice just sounds like this. A little bit more about the 9th through 12th grade. You did, or I think also middle school, you described that those students tend not to self-report social or emotional concerns as much. And just based on the difference in how students interact with their counselors, their teachers, as compared to at the primary level, if the students are not self-reporting, and I will admit that I have conducted my own focus group of like 2 or 3 of the teenagers in my life, there are a lot of students we have in our schools at the high school level who are extremely high achieving on academics, which is why they score high on, they rate themselves high in academics. But if you meet any one of these kids, they will tell you they and their friends are struggling. So to the extent that I think anybody who has a kid in high school knows that there are students who are struggling and they're not necessarily going to show up at the nurse's office, they're not going to show up at their counselor, their counselor's office. They primarily see those counselors as helping them pick out their classes. They don't see them as being a social emotional support. And attendance may have a lot of different reasons. In that I forget now exactly what you called it, but like, thank you, the MTSS, like how do we address that concern for our older students at the middle and high school levels when, the students don't tend to have like that one teacher all day who can really keep an eye on them? Because I have concerns that we're not seeing the data, and you have recognized that they don't self-report the data, but I also don't want us to lose them.
Absolutely. And one thing I would, say is that we don't even have, I have to go back and look, the percentage of students who actually completed the SABRs for 9th through 12th grade is very low. So as we also know, students who are feeling and hurting, they're not also filling out that rating scale. So we're catching the students who are quote unquote doing okay, or the good students who just want to make sure we do everything right. But sometimes we miss because the students themselves are not even taking the assessment. So and one of those things is they feel like we're not doing anything about it. Like that's been one thing that I've been told directly. Well, up in Leeds, for example, we would go back and meet with the kiddos to say, hey, here's your data and here's what we should do to support you. But they don't always see that direct output of, if I take this survey, if I do say I need support, something's going to happen. And we're trying to put more systems in place to catch that, because I think we all recognize that there's a group and a lot of students who are not being recognized in that area, who do have support, who do need supports. So yes, we still have to find a better route. A rating scale is not going to catch all. It's just not.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, and I bring that up in part because this board and this administration has put a lot of effort into reviewing our counseling departments, and I think what we're seeing through this data and the fact that we have, frankly, insufficient data. Again, my little focus group of 2 tells me even the kids who fill out the SABR screeners, they just go through and check, I'm fine, because they're concerned that someone's going to come and get them and they're going to be singled out as someone who has problems. And while I recognize that's sort of the point of why we're giving them the screener, a lot of the students are sophisticated. They're looking maybe for discretion. They're looking for a different, safe way to access the support. And I'd love to see us take a look at how we can provide that to them.
Can I ask an extending question as well? And we alluded to the data around K-5. Do we feel like the systems are working with fidelity at 612 through the middle school and the high school related to gathering the data? Because the SABRs was one component of what you shared, right? It is those other, not anecdotes, other components of data, attendance, discipline reports, nurses visits, counseling visits. Are those pieces occurring in a way that wraps around finding that absent a SABRs note? Or is there continued work to do? significantly varied work.
I think we have continued work to
Okay.
do.
But both the middle school and high school are utilizing all those other data sources. And so the middle school counseling team has weekly or monthly meetings, so does our high school counselors. Mrs. Hayes has created a quarterly data review after school because of the various positions that need to be part of that meeting, where they're doing the same work looking at students. But I think seeing the systems that Ashley's built in at the elementary level and growing those up more so into secondary.
100%. Thank you.
I had a question going back to, did I cut you off? Okay. Back to the elementary school, I think it was slide 18, but I may have written that down wrong. When you were talking about engagement in 3rd through 5th grade, and I'm sure that you have thought about this. I'm just curious if there is anything to do with the 5th grade center, and that being a new building, and is it because 3rd through 5 in our district is not the same as 3rd through 5 in a K through 5 building. So I'm wondering if 5th grade can or should be evaluated separately, or if the data is skewed somehow because all of a sudden you're with all these people you don't know and you're in a new building, and maybe that's scary.
I appreciate looking at the data. So in the fall, we look at it, when we haven't gotten to know all of our students as well. So I like to see it again for this. We'll have our second round in January. And I think it's a little bit more telling what our data looks like in January and the spring, those 2 data points versus, because it's kind of similar to our kindergarten. The teachers come in, they don't know that. Usually our kindergartens, off the chart with it when you look at individual buildings with the number of supports that they need, but then it's leveled out a little bit. I would say it's very similar to the 5th grade center. We do the same process with the 5th grade center as far as the SABRE review meetings and things, but I would agree that that's a component of it.
And, go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I think looking at the individual engagement scores on Panorama by building, is another piece for us to dig into. The other thing is, I think, going in and talking with students. We've had such success with our student advisory committees at the middle school and high school, and so tapping into some of those leaders at our elementary schools and at the 5th grade center to dig more into why we've seen such a significant decline in engagement at the elementary level.
And I just wanted to add, we talk a lot. It's safety and security is our #1 priority. We spend a lot of time, a lot of resources, and I want to say that the work that you are doing is the first preventative measure to incidents in our schools. All of the physical things that we have done to try to protect our students, the work that you are doing is key in early recognition, in early support for students and families, and in giving them the resources in their moments of worst crisis. So I want to thank you for that, because you really have to see these students as, the students who are experiencing challenges as more than just a discipline issue. You have to see them as the whole child, as you mentioned, and as a whole family, and the classroom as a whole community. So I just want to acknowledge that you are really a very important part of this, of the work that we all prioritize.
If I
piece that goes along with that is, and you were talking about the completion, that's why it's so important to look at something like having a climate culture survey alongside something like SABRE's, because SABRE's, we have self-reported scores, but then we're able to look at that alongside, here's something that you're doing in confidentiality without your name attached. And we used to see a lot more comments on Panorama that would say in the open comments, like, why are we asked to take this again? I don't know. And we're seeing way less of that and more serious comments in Panorama, because the communication has been out there about how we're using it and sharing that we're not just, we're not just asking you to take this, we're repeating questions because we want to see if our action steps are having an impact, and recognizing that, oh, we're really using this data. And I think that communication coming out around SABRE's can really help. Sometimes it's just letting the students know this is how we're using it, but being able to have a confidential piece so we can see globally how a group of students are doing, alongside, okay, here's when we look at some students as individuals, helps us know what initiatives to put in place.
Go ahead.
If I may, coming back as we talk through the Panorama information, so I know you noted that the 73% over time for 3rd through 5th grade was impressive related to the national norms. And 55% for 612, what percentile is that? Because 99 percentile was a 73. What was the 55 at the
Yes.
612?
And that's for engagement. It's 612, we're in the 70th to 80th percentile
70th
compared
to
to other
80th?
secondary schools. About 75%, 75
About
percentile.
75%
Yeah.
percentile. Okay, so significantly different than the 99th percentile of the other. And I'm not sure if we know yet what the statistically significant numbers are, but like for third through fifth grade, 73% was where we were, with a high of 77, a low of 69. What's statistically significant in Panorama? So if students identify as black are at 69% and the norm or the average is 73, is that in Panorama statistically significant? I'm guessing it is, but I don't know the numbers enough, and I guess I'm asking you before I dig more.
Right, and the Panorama doesn't tell us what would be considered
It doesn't? Okay.
Yeah, it does not specifically give you that. In fact, it's interesting because even when they show us the percentile rankings, I'll have principals reach out to me because sometimes you'll see that change and flux depending on the number of schools that have completed it.
Sure.
If that makes sense, so
It
that
does.
it's continuously changing. But I think what's significant for us is looking at that over time. We want to see that, it's interesting because even in an area, was it secondary engagement that looked fairly even across race, ethnicity? And we go, okay, so that as a whole, we want to move forward. We want to see, I don't think we want to see any gap is my point between our percentages when we look at student groups. But yes, as far as they don't give us a specific significant,
So I think that would be interesting and could be telling about how well we aren't doing in terms of improvement. I'm also curious around the intersectionality or the segment overlap of gender, race, and students who may have IEPs. Where does that look like in terms of if I have a duality in demographic, how am I faring, how am I feeling a sense of belonging or in the various spaces? So I think that's another component, and again, we only have so much time before us, but I think that's something we don't show up as a single identity. And so what does that look like in a space called Ladue School District, in a pre-K through 12 space? I have varied identities. How do I show up? How do I feel a sense of belonging? So I think that's just a component we can look at. Maybe we have already something.
No, thank you. So actually, thank you so much for bringing that piece forward, because actually Panorama just this fall has created a new dashboard that they're going to actually be transferring fully over to, but they're allowing us to kind of take a preview of it, which has all of the student groupings on the left-hand side where you can very easily toggle. And that was one of the things that we went over in our principal meeting last week when we took a deep dive, was we asked the principals to all look at this new version of the platform and actually start looking at it by student groups. While it doesn't necessarily give us an overlap, it does let us toggle back and forth very easily so that we can be looking at our data more comprehensively.
Thank you for that. And again, I didn't want to lose as well that 75% percentile is not something that we've ever been comfortable with in anything we do in Ladue. And we like to stand on the high number. So I didn't want to miss that's obviously a significant arena of growth for the collective whole. And I would always offer places of growth or just that. It's where we are and how do we move forward. So I know we'll have a discussion in the ensuing year about how we're looking at that with the system we talked about through SABRS, through the MTSS components collectively, but something that I didn't want to miss when I heard 99%, I was like, great, what about the other one? So thank you.
And that's also where it's incredibly important for our principals to get to continue really looking at this data across the 5-point Likert scale as well, because it shows us where those leverage points are. Like, are we down here completely on the opposite end of the scale, or are we here in the middle, or where are we needing to make the movements?
So my question, just as we look at this, and hopefully we can get this, because I can see way back there. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it in, I was looking for it here in this screen. But when we look at the overall, tiers of support that we have for social and emotional learning, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, is it time for us to revamp that, to make sure that it's more inclusive, to meet the needs of what students need today versus what we thought we were doing to support them yesterday? Because it seems like, especially when you're saying we're seeing these trends, K2, and we've seen that over time, how are we making sure that what we have thought in the past was a tier 1 support that met the needs of, the bulk of students, may need to change to make sure that it's, more inclusive and is more of a catch-all than just what we thought it was in the past.
I'm so glad you brought that up. So this week and last week, the elementary curriculum coordinator and I are meeting with all of our kindergarten teams to talk about some changes next year for the beginning of the school year in Q1, reducing the academic expectations so that we can really focus a lot more on social emotional. We're seeing our students come into us differently in kindergarten than we have in the last 10 years. We last year had 36 students that were marked not kindergarten ready on our kindergarten observation form, which is an assessment the state asks us to give by September 30th. This year we had 66, so almost double. We're also seeing we have as many discipline referrals in kindergarten up to this point in the year that we had all of last year combined in kindergarten. So we're seeing our students coming in without the social emotional skills that we've seen in the past. And so making sure that we're not taking for granted that our students have those. And so really Ashley Hill and our behavior interventionist Stephanie Chappie are looking at our social emotional curriculum. We currently have second steps, and so there'll be a program review of that curriculum. We're also in our math program review, the 2 resources we're looking at have a lot of SEL built into that program that teach some routines and procedures and sharing and how to talk and share the space along with the content. So it's been a big focus overall. Anything else you guys want to add?
We recognize that, and so actually Stephanie and I did at our PD day in November, we did a whole thing on the early childhood coming in, so it was pre-K through first grade? First grade? Through first grade. And Stephanie's like the most amazing teacher in the world, so she's like up there doing the cutesy everything. But the research that I brought, because I bring the boring stuff, but the research that I brought shows that our kids are coming in unprepared, so guess what? We have to change what we're doing. So to your point, our tiered system, what used to be tier 1, easy support, looks very different. So we're already kind of prepping that, changing the way that we need to, as adults, enter the space. So it's a combo of what we can do as adults and what we are expecting our kids to do.
And I would just want to add to, I think that when we are looking at those variances, I'm glad to hear that you're thinking along the same lines. These kindergartners and first graders and second graders that you're talking about are babies that were born in COVID. And so what part does technology play in their development to be kindergarten ready versus, what we have thought to be traditionally, we're sitting down and reading books. Now we're on tablets and cell phones and computers learning. So I think also if the data that we're looking at to compare, it doesn't take into account those COVID years. Right. So it can't really match what was traditionally thought of as this is what should be when we have had this whole, national pandemic that affects their learning for them moving forward. So how do we catch them up to get them back on track?
Absolutely. We are definitely working on that.
So just for Dr. Whipke, I know that you have been doing a lot of work in your office and just wanted to see that based on this information, if there were any updates or insights, just given the conversation and the question from the board.
Yeah, I think it's been a great discussion. I've got a lot of insight in terms of what I'd like to present out with our district goals. But the first thing I think that's really important and relevant is I hope our community is listening to the conversation that you all just had as a board, because I think it epitomizes why we're successful as a district. You look at alignment, and we talk about alignment all the time, and we talk about the fact that we have a board retreat. During our board retreat, we set our district goals based on what? We set our district goals based on what has happened in the past, but we set our district goals based on our strategic plan, and we set our district goals on reports that these ladies have just given us to see where do we need to dive down deeper and where do we need to look at things deeper. Part of that process last year and into this fall was, hey, let's really dive into our counseling, college and career, the K-12, pre-K-12 program in terms of SEL supports. And so we're looking at that right now. We're hopeful to be able to get something to you. And I mentioned before in January in terms of some type of proposal. We do need additional supports. I think you heard that tonight. I think you can also attest that this has been not just a 1 year cause of concern. It's been multiple years, and you all as a board have provided that support. I'll remind everyone of the situation at Conway when we split our kindergarten in the middle of the year. It was January, if you remember, last year, 2 years ago, where we decided to do that. And this board has always been very, very supportive of that. And I think what you'll see and you're hearing from the board tonight with the questions is wanting to learn more, not to question what you're doing, but wanting to learn more to figure out how we can provide more additional supports. And that's what the board has always done. So when we look at the complete alignment from the board retreat to summer institutes to cabinet retreats to sitting down with our principals, you can see alignment that's directly from the leadership from the Board of Education. So I have a couple of things that when I have my opportunity to kind of report out on district goals, and I'm going to be honest with you, I feel like I don't even need to report out on the district goals, because when you've seen what the reports are coming back from the schools, there is that direct alignment to district goals. What's nice about it is all schools are a little bit different. To Marissa's point, the FGC is a lot different, and so we do allow for some differentiation of those goals, but we're still staying aligned to the district goals that were created all the way back in June. I think it was actually May, right? We were doing some things in May. Well, that was cabinet, but in June with the Board of Education. So that's a process that I think is very important to the progress that we're making as a district. The other thing I will say is that I think sometimes we get, and I appreciated all the questions, and Pablo, some of your questions tonight. The other thing I think that, and we've talked about this, but we thrive as a district and we do really, really well as a district, but we have areas of improvement. And so having the authentic conversation tonight about where we need to improve is, I think, very real and very important to progress, because if you don't ever say, hey, and show the raw data or ask the tough questions, and you guys asked really good questions tonight to make us think. And that's why we even put a process in place where we meet with our cabinet team to debrief from what we hear around this table to see how we can get better and improve. And everything aligns, though, back to that strategic plan that connects to our district goals. So thanks for asking my opinion on that. Yeah.
As we end, I just want to say thank you for the partnerships that exist in this very important work. The entire board, the whole cabinet, think about Ashley, Stephanie, and Danielle who are here. Working with the principals, you hear so many of the same things because we're working together all the time, and that's why you hear that same messaging. All of our teachers, and there's a reason why I've been here 27 years. We're not perfect, but we are always growing, and appreciative of you so much for your leadership as well.
Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Last, but certainly not least.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I kind of already stated my introduction for the district goals. And honestly, I hope that you listen to the next few minutes of what I have to say, and I hope you do kind of cross-reference to what you've heard, not only tonight, but in other board meetings when we've had school presentations or we've had department presentations. What I did is we do have our district goals, but I just put, rather than go through every single individual goals, I just had a comprehensive report that I put together that I think encompasses all of our goals. This is just an opportunity for me to kind of talk about our progress, but I also want to let the community know, we go through a formative assessment with me and individual board members. Some of you all I have already met with, and we go through the district goals at that formative assessment, and I pull out goals that I would like to work on personally, because I feel like if I'm working on those, then they can help drive the district forward. So I really have appreciated and look forward to completing all of those formative conversations with each and every one of you. But I did want to let you know just a couple of things. I recently visited Dr. Carlock, right, our famous Dr. Carlock, and I toured the LECC campus just today. The school is definitely thriving, and enrollment is growing. When I talked to her about her programs, enrollment is growing. And we're already getting a request, even though it's not registration time, and Derek can attest to this, but we're already getting requests for families to want to be a part of our LECC early childhood. In particular, I wanted to highlight, right, what we've done at Old Bonham and Spady. We have satellite sites. That's something that I think when you asked your question about the space at Reed, it's something that I think we're going to need to consider. Do we expand some of those satellite sites into Conway and into Reed? Because that's probably the number one thing that Stacy had mentioned to me today, is that we're starting to get more and more people earlier and earlier asking about the pre-K programs at Spady and again at Old Bonham. So moving to the upper grades, I want to highlight what you heard Dr. Thompson talk about, which was activities and athletics. Most recently, I think she even mentioned the futsal that took place at the middle school, and that was very popular. You guys know this already, but I think it's important that the community knows as well. We're currently looking to have a stipend committee. Layla Crabtree is running that stipend committee for us to look at, how we support our teachers in terms of pay that are running these after-school activities. So in terms of enhancing academic programs and program opportunities, we're definitely doing that, and that connects into our goals. I also wanted to make mention of the expansion that we've gone through this year in terms of looking at our specials at elementary school. As each of you know, we have STEAM classes now. Those STEAM classes have been received really, really well. We have great teachers that are teaching those classes, but all of our teachers at the elementary level support those STEAM classes, and our students are thriving. And then finally, I wanted to talk just a little bit about building off of the momentum at our high school as well. You guys know about the tiny homes. You also know about the veterinarian clinic that we have at our high school. But then we're also looking at partnerships with St. Louis Community College, ways to look at some CTE programming where we can get our kids some support. And then, as you guys know, we're really, really happy with our numbers with the Catalyst program. So when you start to look at supporting kids from a curricular development across the board, I think we're reaching that and supporting them from an innovative standpoint as well. But looking at fostering individualized learning, looking at equity, the focus on student growth has been, really centered all around all of our students, no matter where they're coming in. You heard that tonight on their learning. We're trying to create individual plans. I think you've heard me talk about the success we've had with our reading success plans. And on the contrary, I think you've heard where our building principals have reported off math we're not as successful with math. And so you heard Layla present about going through a curricular review with math to try and figure out why some of those things are happening. So the grow time has been mentioned several times in terms of being able to meet individual needs. When you look at our middle school, you can look at the targeted 2 interventions that are happening. You can look at flex time that is occurring right now. And then I want to again compliment, I see Jen Rizmi still sitting back there, but Jen Rizmi continues to support our equity work with new teachers. She mentioned that to us. Specifically, all new teachers have mandatory sessions that they go through in year 1 and year 2 in terms of the culturally responsive teaching strategies that they need to implement in their classrooms. And to your point, Keisha, I think maybe even looking at how do we advance that tier 1 instruction based upon the differences that our kids are bringing to the table. So that's actually a note that I wrote down. And maybe you will see our district goals reflect that coming in next year. Strengthening student support and well-being. We've talked already pretty extensively about this, but there is a need to really look at that pre-K through 12 counseling SEL supports that we're looking at. And so we're looking at, a comprehensive review and trying to ensure equitable access across several specific areas. College and career we've talked about, but access to our college and career counselors. How much access do families have if two parents are working, right? And can we get flexible with their schedules so that families can maybe meet with them in the evening hours, right? And I think those are options. So those are some things we're talking about right now. Access to really truly being consistent with 504 plans across the district, right? Not just consistent within a building, not just consistent with groups and subgroups, but how do we get consistent across the district as a whole? So looking at some 504 support, we have our wonderful social worker in the back, Danielle Green. I think we all would agree and attest to her job that she does each and every day, but it's time for us to provide some more supports for Danielle. With some additional social worker support. And then you did hear Ashley, and Ashley did a great job of presenting to us, but she is our only school psychologist right now as well. So how do we provide additional support? So we're looking at that counseling pre-K through 12 program. The goal is also directly connected to enhancing social and emotional well-being of our students, which is integral to the overall safety and security, which is exactly what Marissa Rosen just said to us, right? It's the first step in safety and security, so I appreciated that. So if our focus on social and emotional well-being obviously ties directly to the safety of our students. I will also reiterate, I think Amy, you mentioned this, Keisha, you mentioned this, but technology, right? And we have seen benefits of the cell phone policy, and what I'll say is the banning of cell phones during academic hours. We've seen the benefits of that as a school district, that has been a good thing. Reviewing again the MTSS structure, you heard Ashley talk about the importance of that, but I think you all as a board also reiterated not only the importance of the MTSS structure, but the importance of, is it relevant to current times today, and do we need to reanalyze and relook at the MTSS structure? So point well taken today by our Board of Education. And then staff wellness, that is obviously something that we talked about. And if you remember right, I remember it well, that was actually something that we talked about for quite some time, and everyone felt adamant about adding that as a topic, a bullet underneath our last goal for the 2025-26 school year. So we're continuing to monitor that, right? We look at staff wellness, we look at our operational integrity. We have the panorama data, but we go beyond that, and we have a wellness committee. That wellness committee has really started to analyze how do we provide supports for our staff? How do we provide mental health support, physical health support? What kind of things are we doing as a district from team building? You guys all hear us promote the kickball, right? And having fun with kickball and volleyball. That's important, not only because it gets us active, but it's also building bonds and connectivity and engagement. Our human resource department is supporting, our staff. They're giving out quarterly newsletters to our staff. They're highlighting frequently asked questions so that they can access our employee assistant program, and they have that information readily available to them. Things such as the public school loan forgiveness as well, that they're aware of that to take maybe some stress off of them, tuition reimbursement. So there's a plethora of things that we're trying to constantly remind our staff to alleviate stress that they have. Because obviously in the world of public school education, when you work for a school district, it can be stressful at times. And how do we alleviate some of that stress and giving them mental breaks? On the operational side, we are in a strong financial situation. You guys had a wonderful conversation around the admin center. I really appreciated the thorough questions. I know that Dr. Macy does as well. But we're looking at that admin center, right? We were able to move forward with the admin center tonight based upon your all's support, and we're excited about that. I do want to say from the operational integrity side of things, and it goes back to how I announced things at the very beginning, when I did the introduction, or when I did my superintendent remarks, we've got to stay connected to our legislators, right? When you start talking about public school funding, even though we're in a strong financial position, you know, I think, Amy, you had mentioned, you know, the thought process is how do we give more money to our school vouchers right now after the $50 million that was already given? You know, that's just for everybody's knowledge. That's the first time, and I think the history of public schools, that public school tax dollars are going to pay for private schools. Right? We've got to watch that. We've got to pay attention to that. Thus, I thought that this legislators in our school week was so important. Let's get some legislators here. Let's talk to them. Let's have conversations with them. We need to build those relationships. And I will tell you, that little bit of you know, fun that we had, our kids did an amazing job. But no sooner than the afternoon come, at the evening came, one of the legislators reached out to me, sent me a bill, and said, how would educators feel about this? That wasn't going to happen before that legislators in our school visit. So I really appreciated that, without a doubt. So I think that when you look at the funding of schools, the funding of public schools, yes, we're 96% local, but you're hearing conversation around income tax, you're hearing a conversation around all that's going to impact all the Missouri schools. And we need to be on the forefront of that. And then finally, from a safety and security standpoint, you know, this Board of Education has been absolutely phenomenal. The amount of money, the amount of resources that you guys have dedicated to operational items that we need to help keep kids safe. I can't thank you guys enough for your work there, because you've made a commitment. And I'm not talking a commitment of just a couple of $100,000. You guys have, with the additions that we've had in terms of, you know, you've got Dan. I don't know if Dan's still here, but Dan in the back. No, Ryan. You got Ryan. You got Rick. You got Dan. You got Chad. You got Eric. I mean, that's a safety and security team that we have now in our district. They're great people doing great things for us, keeping our kids safe. You guys all know what we did with our weapons detection system at the high school. I'm out there every morning talking to kids, having conversations with kids as they're walking in. I can tell you, as superintendent, I feel really good about that. And I'm just going to remind the board, you know, that the deadbolts was this year. Adding all those deadbolts was this fall. And to be able to get all of that work done, and with a click of a button, know that our kids are a heck of a lot safer than they were before. Kudos to all the board for making that happen. And those are all initiatives that are added on to our Centegix badges. We had a little glitch with that in the beginning of the year. But our Centegix badges and our rapid responders, and then the Safe Haven film. So I just want to compliment you. I do think we're making a lot of progress, and where our goals are at now. Have we completed them all? Have we gotten to the level and the depth that we would like to get? No, but are we making some significant progress around the 2025-26 goals that you all created with the administration back in June? Yeah, I feel really good about where we're at. And I want to just again thank the board for the constant support of what we're trying to do and where we're trying to go. It's a really good team effort, and so thank you all.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Ripke? Okay. Seeing as we have come to the end of our agenda, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Nobody really jumped at that. Peter?
Yeah.
Amy? You'll get your voice back soon. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Have
you.
a great winter break.